So, hi everyone.
Hi.
Hello, Alex.
As you may know, my name is Alex Taylor, and I wear a number of hats, but I guess the current one is lead UI architect for Arca Noae, and I assume you can see my name and email address on the slides.
Yes.
So I'll jump right into this. Can you go to slide 2, please?
Yes. Got it.
Okay, so today I'm going to be discussing the Arca Noae Package Manager, or ANPM for short. And so I'll jump right into graphical software manager for OS2. It's intended to reduce the pain of installing, removing, and or updating software, managing dependencies, and minimizing conflicts, all of which are very important. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Got it.
Okay, so you should see a picture of what the Arca Noae Package Manager actually looks like. And what I'm going to try to do right now, I have a virtual machine set up here, so I'm going to try and switch the Skype video to that. So if you can just give me a second, I will try and remember how you share screens. There we go. Okay, can you see my
Yes.
screen there?
Yes, we can.
That's your OS2 work screen?
Yes, great. Isn't it beautiful?
Well, it's the right one. That's a good start.
Yeah. So this is an almost vanilla MCP2 system. It's got just the latest fix packs installed and a couple of tools like zip, unzip, and warp in. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to demonstrate installing ANPM. Because that takes a few minutes, I'm going to just start that going, and then I'll switch back to the presentation for the next 10 or 15 minutes. And then we'll come back towards to this at the end and resume the demo. So I downloaded the ANPM files earlier today. And you can get this from Arca Noae's website. But in fact, you can't get the version I'm about to install because this is a beta release that has not been made publicly available yet. So you might see a few small differences. But anyway, you install it using warp in and just go through the usual process here. Can you sort of clearly see my screen, or is it a bit small for you to make out?
No, it's pretty good.
Pretty bad.
Could use a little focus,
Okay.
but that could be my eyes.
Great. So
Yeah.
the install options, you've got the Arca Noae Package Manager itself. You've got several support libraries which are mandatory. Which I should say, which are required for the program to run. But if you already have them installed, the warp-in installer will detect that, and you don't have to reinstall them if you have them installed already. But if you don't have them installed, they're included in the package, and because this is a almost vanilla system, I don't have any of them already, so I'll just install all the prerequisites. And if you download any of the optional language packages, you can also install those. So just to provide an example, I'll install both the Dutch and French language packages. So just go yes. I recommend you allow it to create the workplace shell objects. So just install. And it's not a big program, so it doesn't take long. It's already done. It creates a folder on the desktop, and here it is. The license agreement, which is GPL3, the README, and here's the real deal. So what I'm going to do is just run it, and the first time it runs, it's going to detect that I don't have the yum and RPM environment installed. So it's saying that I should install it, and it's offering to install it. So I'll let it do that. And what this will do is we'll just go to Arca Noae servers and download the install package for yum RPM. This is our own fairly simple install package. It's not the rather, no offense, needlessly convoluted warp-in package that Bitwise made available. This is a fairly streamlined and simple to use installation. All you have to do is click yes and make sure you have working internet connection. It'll install it, then you reboot and you're done. So I'll just start this going, and this will probably take about 5 or 10 minutes since, it's about 50 megs of stuff that it has to download. But, so what it actually does is it launches a wget process in the background. And then it should actually be doing more than this. Hang on, just to make sure my connection is okay. Looks fine. Oh well. So I'll let this run for a while, and I'll switch back to the presentation. So hopefully this will be finished installing by the time I get to the live demo. Okay, so let's go back to the slides, and can I see slide 4, please?
Got it?
All right, so why ANPM? Well, OS2 software, historically there have been a number of ways to install it, and we are sadly long past the days when you could just download a zip file, unpack it, you're done. A lot of software has fairly complicated requirements, complicated dependencies, so you need something more intelligent to actually manage the install. And mostly, in recent years, there are 2 main systems that are being used to release and distribute software: Warpin and RPM/Yum. Unfortunately, they're not compatible with each other. And when I say they're not compatible, I mean they can exist on the same system, but they don't talk to each other at all. Neither one knows what the other is doing. So, if you install software with one, the other one doesn't know about it, and you can't track dependencies between one and the other. And also, we're being encouraged more and more these days to switch over to RPM/Yum for reasonably good reasons. It's more intelligent, more powerful, but if you change over to RPM/Yum on an already installed OS2 system, which you've had a whole lot of other stuff installed through various methods before, it can get very messy. You've got DLL hell going, dependency conflicts. You might have the wrong version of DLLs installed somewhere in your system paths, and RPM/Yum doesn't know about it. You might want to install a package using Yum that requires DLLs that can only be installed with Warpin, but it doesn't know about that. It can get very messy. So ANPM is designed to help with things like that. And also, RPM and Yum are just kind of tough to use. I mean, if you're comfortable with the command line, it's fine. I mean, you can say Yum install or Yum update or whatever. And that works if you're comfortable with command line, but not everybody is. And also, if anything goes wrong and you have to do anything sort of advanced with Yum, it gets difficult very fast. Because as powerful as Yum is, things can go wrong with the stressing frequency. And when that happens, digging into the guts of the system to try and fix it can be an unpleasant process. Okay, so can I have slide 5?
Got it?
Okay, so what does ANPM do right now? Well, first of all, most obviously, it's an easy-to-use front end to most common Yum operations. I say most. Some of the more advanced stuff you will still need to use Yum itself, but from the command line, but we're trying to phase that requirement out more and more as time goes by. So increasingly you will be able to do just about everything you need Yum-wise through ANPM, unless you want to do really advanced or obscure stuff. I mean, we're never going to be able to support everything. Sorry, Lewis. But we're trying to get to the point where, almost most normal people can do most normal tasks without ever having to use a Yum command. There's a simple Yum repository manager, and I'll get into that a bit more when I do the demo. And we also, this is one of our sort of marquee features of ANPM, is support for so-called secure Yum repositories, where you may have an account on a Yum repository, like one we have at Arca Noae, for subscription-based software, which requires a user ID and password to access. And rather than require the user to actually put in all of their credentials and everything into the Yum configuration files, which are plain text, we've come up with a way to allow the user's credentials to be saved but encrypted securely on disk, so that you can get into the secure repository without constantly having to enter your credentials. But if somebody else temporarily gains access to your machine, tries to swipe your configuration files, or if they have a sniffer set up on your network and they try to sniff out your credentials, they can't get them. So we were quite pleased with how clever a solution we came up with there. ANPM also tries to do some relatively intelligent detection of DLL and exe conflicts. Whenever you start ANPM, it'll check to make sure that the lib path entries are where they're supposed to be, i.e. at the front, except for the dot. And it also makes sure that the EXEs are in the path. And if they're not, it'll tell you, look, you should fix this. You can turn the warning off if you like. And it will also try and detect if you have duplicate DLLs installed when you install a package that contains DLLs of the same name, and ditto with exe files. It's not foolproof, but it's actually quite intelligent, so it can be a big help. And finally, ANPM is obviously it's a graphical tool for looking at and inspecting RPM, and in the future, we hope, work-in packages. Slide 6, please.
Got it.
Okay, so planned features for the future. This is roughly in order of how we plan to implement them. And the first one is the ability to actually configure platform type or processor architecture. I've already implemented that actually in the beta that I'll be demonstrating today, which is why it's in green. That's not publicly available yet, but I'm hoping we can get that to the test team in the reasonably near future. Oh, by the way, Lewis, surprise. The next one that I'd like to see Lewis and I have actually been talking about this recently, the ability to import and export a list of current packages so that you can duplicate your configuration if you move it to another system or if you reinstall. We want to increase the ability to manage work-in packages, including support for repositories of work-ins, as well as repositories of RPMs. The ability to configure Yum plugins, which is currently something that you kind of have to do through the configuration files at the moment. Also be able to seamlessly replace packages sort of in line. This is especially useful if you're changing from one platform architecture to another one, for example, from 386 to 686. There's a plugin that kind of automates this, and we're looking at ways to maybe integrate that. And finally, and this one is ongoing all the time, UI improvements. We keep getting requests or suggestions or reports of things that maybe could be better, and I keep, every time there's a release, we keep sort of incorporating some of these little improvements here and there. Okay, can I have the next slide, please?
All right. Live demonstration?
All right. Live demonstration, yes. And can we, do you have my VM screen here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so it's still downloading. I had to restart it because for some reason the connection wasn't really working the first time, but 30% to go. So while we wait for this to finish, does anybody have any questions on what I've covered so far?
Yes, Alex, can you hear me?
Yes, just fine.
Yeah, about the import and export of package, is importing every package or just the command line to install everything on a new machine? The command with all the package installed.
It would just export the package names basically,
Okay,
plus
okay.
configuration details like what plugins you have enabled and installed and so on.
Okay.
We're still discussing the details about how this would work. This isn't something we've started to implement yet, but hopefully it shouldn't be that difficult to do. it's not going to be in this next release that I'm demonstrating today. It might be something that I'll try to target for the one after that, which I would expect probably would not happen until next year. I mean, we are continuing to work on improving ANPM, of course, but obviously it's not the only thing we work on. I'm also working on another project you might have heard of called Blue Lion, so that's taking up a bit of my time as well.
Okay.
Any other questions?
When you install things with RPM Yum, frequently you get database damaged or something like that, and it doesn't bother Yummy or ANPM a bit. But on the command line of Yum, of course, it returns failure. So as I automate Yum, I find it very difficult from the command line. And yet Yummy, things I don't even know how to fix. There's more going on when you install a package. How do you process failure? Because
basically, anytime Python, all the Yum stuff gets run through Python scripts in the background.
Yeah.
And anytime the Yum API comes back with an error, unless it's a well-defined error that we know to be harmless, like that RPMDB error, then we will flag it as an error and pass it back to the GUI, and the GUI will just say, look, we've encountered this error. That RPMDB corrupt, I think, message, something like that,
yeah.
That seems to be a bug in the current version of Yum, and I think it might be a cross-platform one. I don't know that it's specific to the OS2 port, but yeah, you'd have to talk to Bitwise about that particular error message, because it's nothing that we can really have any influence on, as in Arca Noae. Okay, the installation is complete. So now I need to select the drive where the RPM Yum directory structure is going to be created. This will be my Unix root drive. And let's see, I've got two drives on this VM, C and D. See how much space I've got. Drive C, I've got about 680 megs free. Drive D, I've got about 850 free. Okay, so I'll put it on drive D. And what it does now is it just unpacks it, and if you have good eyesight or a good video connection, you can see the free space counting down. This initial bootstrap takes close to 150 megs of disk space, but you should always make sure you put this on a drive with as much free space as possible, because if you start installing lots of packages, this disk space can get used up quite quickly. I think the official recommendation is you should have at least 2 to 4 gigs of free space on the drive where you install it. I don't have that, obviously, on this VM, but this is just a demo. I'm not going to be installing it. Okay, so it says it's updated config.sys, and I need to reboot. So I will just quickly do that. And while I'm doing that, is there any other question?
Everyone's an expert here, Alex.
How about moving Unix root? Is there a way to do that?
That's a good question. Did you hear that one, Alex?
I did hear it. There's no automatic way to do it. In theory, it shouldn't be that much more difficult than just moving your etc, USR, and VAR directories, and then changing your Unix root environment variable, as well as the path and libpath entries. Maybe dpath as well, I don't remember off the top of my head.
A temp.
That said, that's theory. Whether it works in practice or not, you'd probably do better to ask somebody who's actually tried it.
It has.
And I believe there are people who have tried it, but
The tough part to have is that because var is also used by ECS, you can't just move the entire var directory structure over. You need to pick var apart and move only the Unix root portions of var over to your new drive.
And how do you tell what those are?
The easiest way is just to copy it and then leave.
Yeah, exactly. Copy it and then leave the extras.
I see. Oh,
Then
I
over
see.
time, see what hasn't changed.
Yeah.
You're going to end up with duplicate var log directories. Because you're, unless you change your log files directive in config sys, your OS2 log files that respect that are going to go to your original var log and your
Yeah,
yum
but-
RPM stuff is gonna go to the new var log.
And 5 years from now, your 1 exabyte drive will not be a difficulty at all.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's var
Anyway,
username.
sorry, can I continue here?
Yeah.
Var
So,
user-
this
Oh,
is
that's-
the ANPM object, as I said. What I'm going to do here for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to edit the properties and add a secret switch /WPI for the parameters. And what this does is it lets me demonstrate a hidden feature, which I'll talk about in a bit. So anyway, now we're starting up ANPM, and when you start it for the first time, or if you haven't started it in a day or so, the first thing it does is it checks the repository data, and if it hasn't been updated in whatever the configured update interval is, it will download a new list of packages from each repository, as well as the file database from each repository. If you have a lot of repositories enabled, this can take a bit of time. I think I only have NetLabs rel configured at the moment, so this should be done in a second. Yeah, there we go. So now it's refreshing the package lists, and I'll just enlarge that. Okay, so this is what the main window looks like. The left side of the screen, you see I have a list of categories, and at the moment I'm looking at the installed category. And this is a list of all packages which I have installed at the moment. And these are just the initial packages that the default yum RPM environment comes with. And you'll see I've got a number of different columns in this list: the package name, the package version, the platform, which is the CPU architecture that the package is optimized for. Generally, it'll be either no arch, meaning it's not platform dependent, 386 or 686. There's also Pentium 4, but I think the default one we ship with at the moment is 686. I'll just move this split bar aside. Kind of hidden here is there's also a description of each package. And if you do a yum list from the command line, you actually don't see this description. This is something we kind of put into ANPM. I mean, it's part of the package, the RPM package, but the default yum tool doesn't usually show this. But here you can see each package's short summary, which is kind of useful because otherwise you may not have any idea what most of these packages are for. And this is also kind of hidden under the split bar if your window isn't that big, but I'm going to scroll over a little here, and you can see each package also has a group associated with it. And these groups, unfortunately, are not always terribly informative or even terribly intuitive. We, meaning Arca Noae, as well as, in fact, Bitwise as well, have no control over what group a package is classified in. This is defined in the package itself. So whoever wrote the software, or at least packaged the software, decides what group to put it in, which is why it sometimes seems a bit inconsistent. And the group names are also decided by the people who create the software packages, which is why, for example, if you change languages, the group name won't change language because it's part of the package, it's not part of the program. The column on the far right is status, because we're looking at the installed package list. Most packages will just say installed. Anything which has an update available, it means there is a newer version of that package available on the repository server. So it'll say update available, and it'll tell you what the version number of the update is, as well as which repository, if you have more than one, the update is located on. As well, you'll notice the icon at the far left here, if it's got an update, the icon will have a big green star on top of it. So it's just a visual cue, which is a bit handy. Now, each package you can select, and what do you do when you select a package? Well, there are a number of different operations you can perform. There's a toolbar at the top, which has the most common ones, and we've got nice flyover help here. You can also use the selected menu, which shows the actions that are available for the selected package or packages, and the same menu is available as a right mouse button click context menu. So for these packages, take a look at bash. shall we? Okay, there's install and update, which are currently grayed out because, well, I can't install it because it's already installed. I can't update it because there's no update available. I could get a specific release, which I'll talk about later. Reinstall, uninstall, those are pretty obvious. And information, this is maybe somewhat interesting. So let's look at the information option. Okay, this gives you the details about the package, including what the version number is, architecture. This is some of the stuff is shown on the list. There's also the package size, the time that it was installed. If it's available, there may also be a website shown here, as well as a license, and a long form description, which actually gives you a bit more information than you see in the short description in the list. And so sometimes this information can be quite useful if you're not sure what a package does or what it's for. So I'll close that. This is just informational. You can't change anything here. By the way, you can actually select multiple packages and call up the information. You can also use the toolbar button. So this is what it looks like if you select 3 different packages at the same time and ask for their information. You just get screens one by one, and on the top here you can just flip through them with arrow buttons. Another operation, actually, I'll show you one interesting thing. If you select a package which has an update available, and you look at the information for it, this is dash, you'll see there's 2 columns now. The left column shows the information about the package that's currently installed, and the right-hand column shows information about the package the updated package that's available on the repository. The URL, license, and description fields generally don't change, so the program only shows one of them. In fact, if you're wondering, in the rare occasion that the URL, license, and description are different between the installed and update versions, if you are currently looking at the installed software list, these will show the installed version. If you're looking at the available list, it will show the corresponding information for the update version. Just a bit of trivia, which isn't particularly important. So anyway, I'll close that. And another thing that we can do is go back to bash here. Contents. This shows the contents of the package. This is another thing that isn't easy to do from the yum command line, but we added as a feature to ANPM. You can also use this toolbar button, same thing. So contents. This shows all of the files and their paths that exist in this package, and this has exactly one file in it, bash.exe. But you do sometimes get files with packages with lots and lots and lots of files. I mean, the GCC FWD, for example, has all of the backwards compatible GCC DLLs. So it's sometimes useful to be able to just see, okay, these are the files in a particular package. So what I'm going to do now is demonstrate updating a package. And what I will do is I will update dash. So I can right-click on it again, and you'll see the update option is now available because there is an update for this package. I can also click this button, which is install or update. I'll do that. So now it checks the dependencies for this package, just like command line yum does. And this package, as it turns out, has no dependencies, so it just says, okay, I'm going to install this package. Do you want to continue? And it shows the details, the size, 81K. You can say okay or cancel. It's not very big, so we'll just go ahead and install it. So when you install a package, this is what it looks like. It downloads it. I've got a nice 200 megabit connection here, so it doesn't take long. And then it refreshes the display. And as you can see, dash no longer has an update available because I've installed the update. So the icon has changed to the regular one, and it's just showing as installed. If I wanted to install another package, let's say core utils. This one actually requires another update as well. So core utils depends on core utils common. So if I go to update it, I am required to update them both. So in this case, the program is telling me, okay, look, I need to update both of these packages, which is a total of 5 megs. Do you really want to continue? And maybe if you think, okay, I don't have time for this right now because this is a fairly short demonstration, so I'll say cancel. But that's how it works. Okay, next, let's take a quick look at the available category. This shows all of the packages that are currently not installed but available on a repository. And it basically works the same way, except it doesn't show packages that are installed unless they are installed packages which have updates available, in which case it does show them. So it shows core utils here because even though it's installed, there's an update available. So that's why it's available. There are a few others. And you can use the filters at the top here, by the way, to filter the view to show only certain items. The default view is all matching packages, which means all packages in the current category or all packages for the current, which match the current search criteria. I haven't done a search yet, but this also applies there. So I'll say packages with updates. So now this only shows packages with updates. It's a very quick and easy way of looking at which packages have updates. Another option is recently added packages. And this is not going to show anything probably because, yeah, this recently added, I want to clarify, there's sometimes some confusion I've seen about this. Recently added packages does not refer to packages that were installed recently. It refers to packages which have recently been added to the remote repository. So it would show anything that has been added to the repository, I think by default within the last 7 days. Since nothing's been added within the last 7 days, it doesn't show anything. So I'll go back to all matching packages. You can also filter on repository. I only have one repository configured right now, NetLabsRel, so it doesn't actually make any difference. And you can also filter on group, and these are the groups that I mentioned here. So for example, if I want to show only packages in the development category, there we go. There are actually still quite a lot of them. Or packages in libraries category, and there are only 2. Go figure. Applications, fair number. Unspecified, which is actually a category. There are a handful of those as well. So this is just, these drop downs are just a quick and easy way.
Oh.
Hello.
Bye. That's it.
Alex.
Power glitch.
Wow.
Connections.
Oh, you'll have to expect somewhere.
Yeah.
Alex, no.
Wi-Fi went down as well, so.
Oh, the Wi-Fi went down too? Yeah.
Alex? Well,
Frozen mid-sentence.
Wi-Fi's gone.
yeah, well, it's not wired up there, right?
Wi-Fi, the router will allow going back down.
Oh.
Wi-Fi's probably rebooting itself.
Yeah, I've seen it flashing up and off here. Wi-Fi is back.
Yeah.
Sayonara.
Ah, 8:56.
Technology is a wonderful thing.
Oh, nice.
It works.
This is virtual box, this is full screen.
Oh, really? But it's one of these costs.
Nice, looks like I've run.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is he independently wealthy?
Yeah, when I first was living in Saudi Arabia, it was but now it's.
Yeah. No, I'm on power here. I can't tell with this machine because
Last time I had.
this is busy saving itself, I think.
We had somebody years ago who donated money for telemedicine. So we
Yeah, I
had
lost my Wi-Fi.
satellite transport.
Yeah, I still have it.
To the United States. It was only used 10%.
Oh, I think we're good. Okay.
And I got a
So
machine, you got
they
a
sent
copy
us
of
another
the
one.
case.
What can we use this for? And the entire place drooled because there was no internet access in Saudi Arabia. Well, except for some of the fences obviously had. So when they installed that, we all had internet.
There we go.
And there was no sensor and everything.
Yeah, I had
Yes.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no internet.
Now we're
Yeah.
all plugged in.
Right.
Yeah, my Wi-Fi dropped, so I disconnected. Yeah, I still don't have the internet access.
No internet access at all. So there's a satellite with internet, but it's essentially, it was a subscription service.
Now I got it.
Yeah, okay.
Internet disconnected.
All right, it's working here too.
So you had software that you run on your computer.
Hi Alex, sorry there was a power issue.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I noticed I lost you, the stream, and your Skype, your IRC avatar all at the same time.
Yeah. You can start over.
Okay,
There's
so,
no problem.
What was the last thing you heard from me? I believe I was talking about the, I just added a new repository by installing the Arca Noae Rel package.
We didn't see the new repository, Alex.
Yeah, you were just
Okay,
showing us
well-
the groups and the selectivity and the drop downs.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just decided to install a package, and I chose the Arca Noae Rel repository, installed that. If you have the current publicly available version of ANPM, you get an annoying error message when you install a new repository package. I managed to fix that last night, so the next version will get rid of that annoying message. So now you can add a repository by installing a package, and I've restarted ANPM just to be safe, and I've got these two repositories in my repository drop-down. So if I filter on Arca Noae Rel,
We
there are
need you
two
to
packages.
share your screen.
I'm sorry?
We need you to share your screen.
Details.
You look great,
Yeah, it
but.
looks good over there.
Hang on. Where is it? It always hides these things in the weirdest places. Okay. Okay. Have you got it?
Got a little circle there. Yeah, yay.
Okay. So, filtered on Arca Noae Rel now, and you can see it only shows the packages that are from Arca Noae Rel. By the way, filtering on repository has no useful effect if you're looking at the installed packages view, because installed packages have no repository associated with them. The only thing it would do is it would filter the ones which have updates available. So if I were to filter on Arca Noae Rel, it would hide all of the updates from NetLabs Rel. Fair enough. All right. So next thing I want to show you. How much time do I have? So if I were to filter on Arca Noae Rel,
That's a good question.
it would hide all of the updates from
Yes.
NetLabs Rel. Okay, great. All right. So next thing I want to show you. How much time do I have? Not really much. How it works. I'll install this one. I think APR. I'll just use install. And this doesn't have any dependencies, so it's just the package by itself. It's nice and small, so I'll say OK. Okay, there we go. And you'll notice that APR has disappeared from the available list, and it now appears on the installed list. So I want to demonstrate uninstalling a package quickly. Well, I won't do it, but I'll show you how you do it. Again, it's just one of these menu options, uninstall, here as well, or this button with the big red X on it. And if you select to uninstall a package, it'll check the dependencies. In this case, it says it's fine, so I can uninstall that. I won't do it now because time is short. But let's see. If you try to uninstall a package that is actually required by Yum itself to function, it won't let you. That's intentional. So let's, for example, sed. If you try to uninstall sed, that's required by several key components of Yum, you'll get this message. It says you have selected to uninstall at least one package which is required for the package management framework to function. This operation cannot proceed. And as you can see, to uninstall sed, you would also have to uninstall RPM and yum because they require it. So in this case, all you can do is cancel. That's just a little safety feature. Okay, I want to quickly show you this mysterious third category that's in the left-hand thing here. 1 second. Okay, this is the warping support. It doesn't actually do anything useful at the moment. It just displays images. And I don't know if you remember, after I installed ANPM, I added a special parameter. I added a special parameter to the program object. This is a new parameter in the upcoming beta /WPI, and turning that on will enable this to appear. And this just shows all of the warp-in packages that are currently installed on the system. Because this is a pretty fresh MCP system, there isn't much here. It's basically just ANPM plus its dependencies. So this is informational only, but as far as it goes, it works basically the same way. You can't uninstall, update, reinstall, or uninstall because those functions haven't been implemented. But you can check package information. For example, let's take a look at Arca Noae Package Manager. The information gives you the full package name, the description. Hold on, what am I looking at? Oh yeah, that was the French support here for that one. Okay, here we go. This is the main package. It lists all of the metadata attributes of the package, including the requirements, the object setup. If there's any config.sys updates, it'll show those too. It'll show where it's installed to, the version of warpin it was installed using, and the date and time that it was installed. And you can also look at the package contents, which is there. So here you can see this is the contents of the installed warpin package. Now, we don't enable this icon by default because it doesn't actually do anything useful at the moment. However, we wanted to give you a sort of sneak peek at where we're hoping to take this. So in the future, hopefully, we'll be able to actually install warpin packages from remote repositories in the same way that we can do with RPM packages. And we've already got a lot of the basic framework in place for making that work. We just need to sit down and implement it in ANPM. So that's basically how the package lists work. I'm going to quickly go through a few of the other program features. This menu option platform is actually new in the beta that I'm demonstrating here, but this will let you actually change your preferred platform architecture. We currently ship with a default of 686, which we recommend. The only ones that you can actually select from are 686, 386, and Pentium 4. Generally speaking, I don't recommend changing this at all unless you really, really know what you're doing and have a good reason for it. Changing the platform, especially if you have a lot of packages of one particular platform already installed, it can have kind of weird side effects, or at least complicated side effects. And unless you understand what those ramifications are, it can get a bit hairy sometimes just managing it. So that's why we don't recommend you change this. In the event that you do need to change it, the option is here. By the way, if this is a list of packages with priority, so you can actually have more than one, and it'll look for packages in the order of priority that they're in the list here. You can also remove all packages, in which case it will default to the built-in default of yum, which I think is 386. But again, I don't actually recommend doing any of this. This is just sort of for your information. It's there if you really do need it. And I'll cancel. So, the installed platform, for those of you who maybe aren't totally familiar with how this works, generally, the RPM yum repository will have different versions of each package available, which are optimized for different CPU architectures. So most of the packages on NetLabs, there are both 386 and 686, and in some cases Pentium 4 versions. And whichever package you have selected here, it will try to install the package for that architecture by preference, if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it will fall back down to the next highest package, which in this case would be 386. That's why you see a mixture of 686 and 386 packages here, because not all packages have 686 versions. Some of them have 386 versions as the highest, and that's okay. So what it really means to have 686 selected means try to install 686 version or the next highest version. I mean, the next most modern architecture, which in this case would be 386.
Alex?
Now, if you have multiple packages, multiple platforms configured, or packages from multiple architectures, you may find that not all of the ones that you expect to see showing up on these lists will actually appear. And that's because by default, ANPM will only show the package, will only show one version of each package, and it will try to show the package which most closely corresponds to the default architecture that you have configured. If you need or want to see all of the available packages, for an individual package, you can use the get specific release option, in which case it will show all of the specific versions that are available, in this case, a 386 version and a 686 version. Or, there's an option in the latest version, still to be released, under Preferences. And I'll show you the Preferences dialog now. This is quite simple, but there's a few interesting things here. The bottom one affects what I was just talking about. If you turn off this option, don't show duplicate packages, then ANPM will show all packages, not just one of each. So if I turn that on, all of a sudden you see 2 or 3 of each package here now. There's one for 386 and one for 686. Not sure if there are any Pentium 4 ones, no. But anyway, that option is there if you find it useful, if you need to see all packages. Some of these other options, this option here will tell ANPM not to check the libpath and path to see if the entries are the way it thinks they should be. Some people may have a genuine need to put something else at the front of their libpath, and they don't want to keep getting nagged by ANPM about it, so you can turn off that nag pop-up if you like, and that's where you do it. Configuration editor, in the repository editor, there's an option to actually edit repository configuration files, and it'll do that using the text editor that you have configured here. For instance, I can change that to EPM, and it'll save that. And you can also change the default language. And this is not terribly user-friendly, but the idea is you enter the name of a locale in the OS2 locale name format. By default, it uses whatever the system locale is, which in my case is ENCA. I can change that to FRCA for French, and it'll change to French. And you don't even have to restart the program. See, everything is now in French, except for stuff like the package description, which you can't change. I'll change back to English here. There you go. And, okay, the next thing I want to show you very quickly is the find function. If you want to search for a particular package by name, let's say I want to find a package called libc something. I'm not sure what. So I want to see all packages that start with the name libc. So I'll go into this option here, find package by name, or from the menu, find package. And I'll say libc star, star meaning wildcard. And what it'll do when you do a search is it'll create a new little thing in the categories folder here called search results. And this will show all of the results of the latest search. And as you can see, it's now showing every package with the name starting in LIDC. And this thing stays here until you either clear it or do a new search. So I can go back and do some more stuff here and come back to this later. And it'll still have my search results saved there. I mean, it won't save them if you exit the program, but until then, unless you clear the search results, which you can do here, or do another search, then they'll stay around for you, which is pretty useful.
Question.
Yes?
The asterisk, the wild card, is it only valid at the beginning? I mean, at the end, could it be at the beginning or in the middle?
No, it's valid anywhere. I mean, let's try star util star. And here's everything which contains the string util.
Yeah.
Okay, all right,
So,
thank
yeah.
you.
What's the default search? Substring? If you don't put any wildcards in?
Yes. Right? No, actually, I don't think so.
It should
Alex,
be-
just search for libc.
It would try to match it exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm. That's probably not the best.
That's standard.
Yeah.
Mm, Not really.
By the way, the search will also show all available packages, not just the current platform. And it looks as if there's actually an update to libc on NetLabs RHEL, but I won't install it just now. Now, the other form of search that you can do is search for a specific file name in a package. And let's say somebody's told me that I need libcx0.dll, but I'm not sure what package it's in. So I can just say, I want to search for libcx0.dll. Now, this is a bit tricky because sometimes, usually, you need to put // in front of the file name, because if you don't do that, it won't search subdirectories. It'll just search for the file name in a top-level directory.
It should default.
But it's a bit strange, and I don't quite understand all the ways it works, because sometimes you have to have a // in front, and sometimes you have to not have a // in front, and I've never quite figured out what the pattern is, which is why we don't try to insert it automatically. But generally speaking, if you're searching for a file, you should by default put // in front.
Have you tried it just star without
So I'll
the
search
slash?
for that.
That's what I do, usually search it, it usually finds it.
And here I found there's only one magic package, libcx.
Good suggestion. I haven't tried.
Your sound is cutting out a bit. Are you guys still getting me okay?
Yes.
Yes. The question, Alex, was,
Okay.
what if we search without the slash, just
That's
star
search
and the string?
results. What I will do now quickly is show you the repositories management. And I will be quick about this because I'm going over time here.
Yeah.
Are you guys hearing me okay? I'm getting very choppy audio there.
Sound is
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
We have Anthony, and we have Steve Levine also.
Okay. Hopefully you're okay. So here is just the simple repository manager. You can add a new repository here, including secure repositories. You can enable or disable repositories.
Where did you do
In the Young repository manager.
You can even edit repository parameters. For example, I'll show you how to edit the Arca Noae RHEL repository. And what this just does is it brings up the configured text editor with the repository configuration file. And I don't know, I'll just make some change in here. I know, I'll capitalize the repository name so it matches the other one. And I'll save that and I'll refresh it here. And the program will keep track of the fact that I have now made changes to the repository. So when I close this window, it'll do a refresh of all repositories.
How do you know where the repositories are?
Okay, so there are a couple different ways to do that. On the Arca Noae Package Manager wiki page, we have a list of known repositories right now. So you can copy and paste that. There's also a package that Alex installed before from the NetLabs release repository that says Arca Noae RHEL. That will install the Arca Noae release repository. And you can install the NetLabs experimental repository the same way from the NetLabs release repository. Can you hear us, Alex?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I was just checking the IRC log because somebody flagged me. Yeah, so apparently you can hear me okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
your
I'm
screen
just
is
having a
not,
little-
your screen
yeah.
did not refresh for a while.
Okay.
So we didn't
Share
see you
screen.
editing the repository.
Okay, well, I can show you that again if you like. It just brings it up in the default editor that you configured in preferences.
It looks like your screen sharing is not quite working. We see you just fine, but the other screen seems to be static.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see.
It's a feature.
It's a Windows feature.
Is that any improvement?
Doesn't
No.
change anything yet.
No,
It didn't change at all.
the screen stopped updating after you popped up the repository manager window the first time.
I see. Well, as it happens, this is basically the end of my demonstration, so I think rather than spend time trying to fix this, we can just switch back to my beautiful face and you can admire it some more.
Yes.
Yeah. Alex, I do have a
RCA
question
plug.
about precedence. Let's say you have an old package that
Wait,
only
no,
had
no,
a
sorry, mini
386
DIN
version,
plug.
and we get an update that has a 686. Will it stay choosing the 386 platform, thinking that you had a reason for picking the 386? Or will it actually upgrade you to the 686? Now, I'm assuming that in your precedence list, 686 has priority.
Okay, are you referring to Yum's own precedents or ANPM's
no,
precedents
when
in
you
showing
pick-
them in the
no.
list, because they're a bit different? Yum, if you say to install a package name, Yum will choose whatever most closely corresponds to your configured platform. However, I will admit this, the list here in ANPM uses some logic to try and determine which package it should show, and it doesn't always get it right. Which is why if you have more than one package, if you have more than one platform configured, you should generally turn off that filter duplicates option. It's just so that you see them all, because I really need to dig into exactly how ANPM does this filtering. At the moment, it's fairly, I think what it does is it actually takes the last one that it finds. If it's the same platform or older, but it kind of depends on the order in which ANPM actually in which Yum actually sends the list back, and in some cases that can be a bit inconsistent. It's something that's very tricky to get just right, so that is definitely something I want to improve. It's pretty high on the list of problems that need to be fixed. It's not, I don't think it's a major problem. If you don't have multiple platforms configured, generally you're okay. But if you do play around with different platforms, you can run into some weird stuff about things that you expect to show up not showing up, which is why you might want to turn on that turn off the don't show duplicate packages option.
Well, are you saying that you really don't, let's say you got a situation where you only have a 386 package. Are you saying that'll get installed even if you don't configure multiple platforms and your default is 686?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes,
there's
yes.
internal knowledge.
Yes.
It's gonna use it if it has to, but you get to override.
Well,
Yeah,
you don't.
it will first look for the platform that you have, but if there is no such package for that platform, it will fall back down to the next newest architecture, I believe.
Okay, so for most people.
Which in this case would be 386.
Right.
So I'd say for most people, the recommendation is do not configure a platform.
If
Well,
you don't configure a
yeah.
platform, we now default to 686.
Which is really gonna be right for most people.
Yes. Alex, do you agree?
I was under the impression that it still defaulted to 386 if there was no platform file.
No, I'm fairly certain they changed that recently.
Yeah, we
Okay.
changed that. We
Who's
default to
that?
686.
Everybody's on the Yum side.
How do you see the platform on
Okay.
the list? It doesn't show up.
But the ANPM is the one
in-
that's actually determining the
It's
fact
wish
Oh,
list.
this one.
it's shown.
That's the added feature.
Okay. The default environment that Arca Noae is shipping does include a platform file with 686 in it. I think that's because we set that up before Bitwise made that change, I guess.
Well, who controls the platform selection? Is it RPM Yum or is it ANPM in this case?
I beg your pardon?
Which application is controlling the platform selection in the end? When you say, okay, I want to install something,
Ultimately, it's Yum.
that's what I would think, because you're displaying a list.
There is a package in the repository called OS2 base,
Yeah.
and the OS2 base package includes a platform file.
Right.
So if you don't have a platform file, you install OS2 base, that will push a platform file which defaults to i686.
Right.
If you already have a platform file and you install or update OS2 base, it will add a platform file which is platform.rpm. So it won't disrupt your current selection for your platform. In the beginning, when the Yum RPM environment was ported over, there was no platform file created. So Yum defaults to i386 by
Well, for
itself.
the longest time, that's really all they were building.
Right.
It's only relatively recently that we've gone and switched over to the 686.
Correct.
But I can see this confusing folks if we don't explain who chooses the precedence.
Right. It's tricky. You asked an interesting question before, though, Steve, about what if you have an i386 package and there's an update for i686,
Right.
but your configured architecture is i386.
So I'm assuming it's 686. In the case I was asking, it was the case where there wasn't a 686, so you fell back to the 386, then an update comes along and it's 686. Which
Then
one are you gonna get?
We would take the 686 update.
Which makes sense to
Yeah,
me.
because that's our preferred platform anyway.
Right.
The flip side is when you have, well, even if you have a Pentium 4 architecture in your platform file, if there's an update to that package for i686, I think that we'll take the update even if we have to fall back. Is that correct, Alex? Does that make sense?
Could you repeat that?
I think
Okay.
it does, because mine went from Pentium 4 to 386, because there was no Pentium 4.
Right, but there was an update to the 386 version of the package. If you have a platform file that selects Pentium 4 as your preferred architecture, and there's an update to a package that is already installed for your preferred architecture, but the update is for a lesser architecture, you will get the update and roll back the architecture for that version of the package, correct?
That doesn't sound useful.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, especially since I lost some of what you were saying there in the audio glitch, but I assume you're probably right. You know this stuff probably better than I do when it comes to how the back end behaves in that sense.
Version takes precedence, then platform.
But in the case
yes,
you
yes, I
really
would say
need
that's
a
true.
But the problem is, the Pentium 4, you need it to avoid bustage, assumptively, not for performance.
Yeah, you do need to avoid bustage. I don't know that Yum necessarily avoids bustage intelligently.
Okay.
That's the real thing, see?
Gotcha.
I believe that version takes precedence over platform. Generally, we don't have that problem. Generally, you won't see, I mean, Andy, do you remember what that package was?
Bash, as I recall.
Dash.
Bash.
Bash.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. I think with some of the package maybe you have trouble with SES, the extended array instructions like SSE and stuff like that, where you really do need Pentium 4, you really do need it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I see Bash has a newer i386 version than the latest i686 version.
Huh. That's an interesting conundrum. I have to look at that more closely and see.
Yeah, see, the 686 and the 386, I don't, it's really, that's a performance issue, and it's really minor.
Minor.
It's not budgeted.
Right, right. That's a good question, though. And I don't know if there's any advanced syntax in the platform file where you can tell it specifically to block out a lesser platform.
Or an incompatible extension.
Yeah.
That's what we're really talking about.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's probably there, we just don't know about it yet.
Any other questions for Alex?
I just want to mention, I did the Arca Noae thing, but I
Yeah.
got like 5 error messages. When I
Yeah.
did it, I had to restart, and then it was there.
And then it was there, right. That's the bug that Alex just fixed.
Oh, okay.
We thought originally that it was a bug in the package to install the Arca Noae release repository. But no, the bug was in our refresh logic.
Okay.
Thank you for
There was,
fixing that.
it was literally one character in one script file that was causing it. I had a 1 instead of a 0 in one of the Python scripts.
Those characters.
Why don't you go back to
Yeah.
Rex?
That's right. That too, yeah.
I don't know.
Typical.
How do you make?
Yeah.
It does pretty nice news.
Now, that's a good
By the way,
question.
Progress.
Mark just asked, how do you make packages for RPM? Well, there is an RPM build environment. And essentially you put all the pieces to put the package together into the various directories, and you run RPM build with the proper options. And it will build the package of the binaries, it will build the package for the documentation, it will build the package for the source files. Obviously, in order for that to happen, you have to define what all those files are. Those files are defined in what's called a spec file, which is essentially the name of your package.spec, specification. And that builds one or more packages. NetLabs has an excellent script now that runs on the server. So when they want to push out new packages, they just put all the files in the right place, and on schedule, the packages get built and pushed to the repositories automatically. So it's a somewhat automated procedure for them. It's a manual procedure for everyone doing 1 or 2 packages. The important thing to remember is that you can create a repository of packages anywhere on your own server and add that, just publish that information as to where people can get that repository, and then those people can add that repository to their local configurations.
Well, I think Dimitri said the build bot is available. So
The build bot is
You're
available.
gonna do the learning curve to figure out how to run it.
Exactly.
And it
is-
should be pretty automatic, it's just Python code, and you're gonna have a working
Correct.
Python if you run an RPM yum.
It's in the NetLabs RPM track project. If you go to sources, you'll see the build bot script there.
If you read documentation for RPM for Linux, are there differences between OS2 and Linux RPM stuff? Like I have a big book about RPM at home that explains all that spec stuff. And
Generally, it's exactly the same with the usual caveats. In other words, path differences that we might have. We have slash versus backslash. And we have this funny thing called Unix root. You'll see Unix root listed as either /@Unix root or %Unix root %. It's exactly the same thing. The two of them are synonymous. It is whatever you have defined as your Unix root. Now, technically, you can define a subdirectory as your Unix root. We don't recommend that you do that. We recommend that you put your Unix root literally at the root of a drive.
like
Some
mine
packages
says
get
a drive, just a
confused.
drive letter.
Yeah, and that's why in Arca Noae Package Manager, we only let you set a drive. You can, if you go into config sys and you edit your Unix root that way, you can do it. But there are a number of things that just aren't happening,
Yeah.
one or two
Right.
layers deep.
Mhm.
You know,
And
so.
it's not even so much the layering as much as the fact that these applications are designed for Linux with the FHS. And we got around the drive letters by
Mhm.
changing it to text string rather than the drive letter spec.
Yep,
But we didn't really get around the other stuff.
exactly. But other than that, generally, if you have a Linux book on Yum and RPM, it's applicable.
Yeah.
Well, the part, we're just using their code. You know,
Yep.
the only thing we've done is make it a little friendlier for OS2.
Mhm.
Semicolons here and there, but a lot of this stuff, you still have to use forward slashes to get it to work right.
Right. And when you do the
And there
warp-in
are-
stuff, are you gonna like migrate it over to RPM, or what's gonna happen there? It's gonna be left alone and just, it's gonna be multilingual, or?
Alex, you wanna answer that?
What's going to be multilingual, sorry?
Well, when you work to have warp-in integrated, are you gonna do it by porting the warp-in information over to RPM? Or are you just gonna make this program that we've been watching smart enough to understand both things?
I think we may have lost.
I
Yeah.
think we died.
Well,
All right.
yeah.
Then-
No, you
then
gave
I'll-
that.
I'll-
Yeah,
sorry, I
back,
can hear that.
okay.
Yeah, anyway.
We lost you,
You-
Alex.
Did you hear the question, Alex?
I did not know, the
Okay.
sound dropped out.
So the question is, when we integrate warp-in functionality, are we porting data from warp-in over to RPM, or are we gonna have ANPM sit in the middle and understand both package managers?
It would be closer to the latter.
Okay.
That's the plan. That's the plan.
Understand both.
The idea is that we don't want to replace either one. We just want to be able to manage both of them.
And have the thing, be cognizant of each other
Yeah.
also.
But I think there's gonna be a little bit of both, because one of the benefits of importing into RPM, the contents of a warp-in package, and they have this notion of virtual packages. They're actually something that exists already, which essentially says, okay, this virtual package is installed, and that's because we installed this warp-in package. And for dependencies, you need a certain amount of import. It's really best, I think, it hasn't been done yet, but I think once we actually get to implementation, we're gonna find that we really need the warp-in information in the RPM database for things to work cleanly. The other way is not as big of a deal, because it's gonna be stupid anyhow. We've got a warp-in script, it's gonna blast, it's gonna wipe out whatever's wiped out. And it's too big of a job, I think, to export an RPM database in anything resembling a warp-in compatible
Yeah.
database. First of all, you blow your innings. So, you know, unless we do internal architecture changes to our warp-in itself, where it would be text file based or something like that, it's just not gonna happen. Because there's just no developers for it, and there's not enough there's not enough need. You know, I think that you're gonna end up more with an import system. You know, you'll be able to continue to use the warp-in package you use, but I think over time, there'll be less of those warp-in packages. The ones that are there, they'll sit, you know, if the applications get updated, it's probably gonna be easier. And also, once the import works, the import just works.
Is the session after this going to exist?
Neil?
We have actually 2 sessions we're going to try to shoehorn into this, so I don't think so. But we'll start the first one and see how it goes.
Exactly.
How are we doing for this one? Are we ready to
We're-
wrap?
I'm done. I'm done.
Alex?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Wish I could be there.
Arigato.
Next year.
I don't know.
Where is the